All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome. How's everyone doing tonight? Thank you guys so much for joining us. My name is Jovan C. Richards. I am the president of the New York State Young Democrats. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. Normally, every year, the New York State Young Democrats come together and we spotlight some amazing people. We spotlight and highlight and recognize some of the most progressive and hardworking names that are young, energized, and here to help Democrats win. Now, normally we would gather in a hall of some sort, whether it be a union hall, a restaurant, or the basement of someone's house. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we can't. But luckily, through Al Gore's internet, we can come together here and be a part of something special. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the first ever virtual, and God willing, the last ever virtual New York State Young Democrats Gala. We have some amazing people behind the scenes that I would love just to show and just to announce, because although I have the pretty face and I get to do all the great talking, I don't actually do any work. So I just want to congratulate and thank Stephanie Campagna-Wheaton, who is our planning commissioner for this gala, Tyler White, who is our executive vice president, and the best dressed man in the Zoom, Mr. Seamus Campbell, who is our literally everything that we don't do, he does. So there's no word yet to really say what Seamus does for us. It's just he does it well. He really is he wears all the hats. He really does. He really should be president, but they voted for me, so you're stuck with me. And of course, we want to thank our secretary, Brian Garcia, and our graphics designer, Christina Kramer. So we're going to jump right into it. We have some amazing guests coming through today, but more so, we have some amazing honorees that we're going to get to as well. I see some very familiar faces in the Zoom where it happens, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. So without further ado, it's my honor. It's a privilege. Not too many people on this Zoom get to say my senator is the majority leader, but Jovan C. Richards gets to say my senator is the majority leader of the New York State Senate. And when we confirmed her, I said, no one's introducing her with me because I never get to introduce my senator. We're always in the same room. I call dibs. And I'm so glad I get to do this. So ladies and gentlemen, the Senate Majority Leader of the New York State Senate, my senator, ladies and gentlemen, Andrea Stewart Cousins.
Thank you. Uh-oh. So I listen, I don't ever get a chance to say my leader of the Young Democrats. Thank you, Jovan. And you're the executive director of the Westchester County Party now, and you got a cool beard. I'm loving it. So it is so good to be part of this virtual gala. I'm with you. I want this to be the last such gala that we have because I miss you all. You know, this is a rally for you, but it's really a rally for us because when we get around the young Dems, we all get energized. You know, sometimes when you're in this business a long time, it really is hard, and especially during times like this when we're up against so much. But it's the young Democrats that, you know, like roll up the sleeves, get out there and say, you know, we're going to do this. Ain't no mountain too high. You're going to climb it. No valley too low. So I am energized by you. And we know what time it is. And we know what we have to do. So I don't even have to tell you any of those things. I remind you all the time that one time back in 2004, when I ran for Senate, I lost by 18 votes. And it was, you know, the longest unresolved race in New York State history. They waited till February the next year to tell me that I lost by 18 votes. We came back. I ran by, you know, I ran again. I won by over 1,800 votes. And when I lost by 18, I remembered a couple of things. Number one, how important 18 plus year olds are. and why I've got to be talking to the next generation and the next all the time. And I also realize how upset, my young Dems were, because we put in the work and we knew we could do better. And so we came back, we did it. And again, I've been able, with your continued help, to make history as the first woman leader in the history of the state, but also as somebody who, as the majority leader, was able to advance so many things that and we know you guys were in the forefront of, whether it was, reproductive rights or climate change or gun laws, early voting, LGBTQ, whatever it was, you're out there in the front. And so it was incumbent upon our majority to make sure that you wouldn't be disillusioned, that you knew that your work mattered. And we continue to this day to really represent, hopefully, not only your highest aspirations, but your pathway to a future. But now we know that we're in jeopardy. We know that we got somebody in the White House who doesn't believe in, America as we understand it, doesn't believe in the future for so many of us, doesn't believe, that dreamers should dream. And frankly, that unless you're scheming on behalf of him, you really shouldn't be doing anything. And so we've got to fight this, and we've got to fight hard. And I know I don't have to tell you to do that, because that's what you do. You have been incredible. Keep it up. Help us, on every level. I think the biggest thing for us is to make sure people just vote, across the board. We're in a battle, even in across the state, to keep our majority, because we have been able to do so much. There are people coming after us, whether it's because of our police reforms or bail reforms. I got, some guy, Estee Lauder, the heir, decided he needs to invest millions of dollars to keep our majority from becoming a supermajority. And I've got a lot of my senators who they're really targeting out on the island, Pete Harckham up in Westchester, and Jen Metzger, and so many that they're just targeting, because we've been able to do so much. So we're at a crossroads here. We're at a great, great battle. And I know that with the energy that continues to be with all of you, we will achieve great heights. And again, we'll do redistricting that makes sense, cut the gerrymandering out. There's so much we'll be able to do if we are able to just hold the line here in the state and be able to cross it on a national level. I also want to, say, before I go, just congratulations to all the honorees, including your FDR Trailblazer, who my good friend, the Attorney General Tish James. And, like I said, there are so many good things I could say about Tish and all of your honorees. I know so many, my new Congressman friend Mondaire and Stephanie and Mike Ruby. So you did a great job in really picking outstanding people. And I said, as we are being honored and supporting each other, I can't wait to the victory. I'm sorry we can't be together, but we will have a victory party. The last thing I will say is that tomorrow I am doing a phone bank for Biden Harris, starting at 6. It's, we're just going to call into swing states, because we know how important that is. And so I know Simra's on, and she'll put that information in the chat. If you could join us and let's make some history, I would really appreciate it. So thank you, Jovan. Thank you, all young Dems. Love you much. Thank you for all your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Majority Leader. I honestly can't wait till this pandemic is over so we can all be at a party with Attorney General Tish James and Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Sounds like my idea of a good time. My name is Steph Campagna-Wheaton. I serve as a National Committee Woman for NYSYD. Lots of familiar faces, lots of familiar names for people who don't want to show themselves on video. Totally get that. But the next person that we have speaking is definitely not a stranger to NYSYD. He is the biggest Star Wars and Mets fan around. I don't know which is more important to him, but He also serves as the deputy majority leader. He represents the area where he was born and raised, and he has been leading on a ton of progressive issues such as eliminating cash bail and making sure that we have automatic registration of all eligible voters. So I hope you all give a warm NYSYD welcome to Deputy Majority Leader Michael Gianaris.
There we go. Okay, what an introduction, Steph. Thank you so much for that. You laid it out there for me with the Star Wars and the Met stuff, but it's true. I do love both of those things, but I also love progressive politics and our Democratic majority. And that's why I wanted to be with you tonight. And I give a huge thank you to the young Dems who have been there with us through the fights. You all are so young. It might have been other young Dems when we started it. And you heard our great leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who herself has made history as the first female leader of a legislative body in New York State history. So she is someone we are incredibly proud of. But we got this far because of the great work of the Young Democrats and all the forces in our party that worked together to make this a reality. It was a tough fight for a number of years. And in 2018, we blew the doors off and got a larger Democratic majority in the Senate than has existed in over a century in New York. And elections matter. Because once we got that majority, just look at what happened. Our first term, which is still ongoing for another couple of months, but it was the most progressive flurry of activity this state has ever seen. We passed gender, we passed nation-leading climate change legislation, nation-leading gun safety legislation, the strongest protection for tenants that's ever been, protections for our immigrant friends, reform of the criminal laws in this state. And we're just getting started. We were incredibly prescient, as it turns out. We codified Roe versus Wade, one of the first things we did in the majority. And now look what's happening because of the upside down federal government that we have. That is going to be in jeopardy if this nominee gets confirmed to the Supreme Court and tilts it further in the right direction of the right. And so we've got our work cut out for us. Obviously, the leaders organizing work for Biden and Harris. Encourage you all to help out with that. But we have our work here in New York as well. We've got to protect the gains we made in 2018. We have many incumbents who won hard-fought elections last time, who won with just by 1% or 2%, and they're targeted now by a lot of dark money. Yes, the cosmetics heir is unloading on us, but so are some other people. It's millions of dollars being pointed at some of our incumbents who need help. And we're trying to give everyone company in our conference. We are looking to grow in Western New York. We've got great candidates in Rochester and Buffalo, great candidates in Central New York and Syracuse, great candidates in the Capital Region, the Hudson Valley, the Southern Tier, on Long Island again, and of course in New York City. We are fielding candidates that are quality people who we expect to win in a couple of weeks, but we need your help to do it. And so as you're focusing, understandably and correctly, on the national climate, we got to get rid of Donald Trump at all costs. That's probably the top of the list of important things. But a supermajority for us in the Senate will allow us to continue to do the great work we're doing, continue to make sure that our policies are enacted into law, and we can lead the country as an example of what needs to be done that other people can follow, which is what New York has always done throughout the course of history. And so I too want to congratulate everyone who's participating tonight. Mondale Jones, I know, is coming up soon, future congressman. We tried to get him to run for the Senate, but he decided he had bigger plans, and we're so happy to see him succeed and on his way to Congress. And of course, one of our stars in the Senate, Zellner Myrie, I know is joining you later. And we are so proud of him. He's part of that class of 2018 and has made such a huge difference in the state Senate and in our state government. So keep up the work. We'll do our part if you do yours, and together we'll continue to make New York a beacon of progressivism and an example for the country. Thanks so much and have a great night.
Julian, you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor and privilege for me to be speaking here with you today. My name is Julian Lamarty. I am the Communications Director for the College Democrats of New York. I would like to thank all of our honored guests and speakers and honorees who joined us here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Your presence truly means the world. I'm here on behalf of the College Democrats of New York to express our sincerest gratitude and admiration to every one of our members for their sacrifices, resilience, and innovation in these unprecedented times. The way young progressive leaders across New York State stepped up to the challenges of 2020 is something we should recognize at the very least. So thank you to the New York State Young Democrats for setting aside this evening to allow us to do so tonight. And thank you all for being here. 2020 struck out of nowhere, and it was devastating, and COVID affected us in many ways. But I, for what it's worth, I'm hopeful, because what's happening right here, right now around us is something that until now, I've only been able to read about in American history books. And that's that we can be stronger in times of crisis. We can't measure our strength in terms of population percentages or infection rates or any other plain number. It's how we build back, how we see the challenges before us as opportunities. And if you ask me, that's what truly makes America great. What makes me proud to be a young college Democrat is how our fellow students, even during a pandemic, will not give up on fighting for this democracy, for this republic. And especially, I'd like to talk about our CDNY chapter members for their efforts. As the race towards the general election began, CDNY set out to make 30,000 phone calls by the 3rd. Well, we crushed that goal weeks ago, and we are now aiming for 50,000 calls, which we will shatter as well, I'm sure. Who knows if we would be activating so many volunteers, making so many calls, if it weren't for the virtual tools by which we are now limited, but that we also now have at our disposal. At the very least, we made the use of the opportunity to connect with each other, regardless of physical location. Among other things, we drew a cohesive strategy for social media, for social media, and summarized the combined social media wisdom of CDNY's chapters in our social media guide, which we released last month. So thank you to each chapter that participated. Thank you to each member who made calls for Democrats up and down the ticket. However, bringing us back to why we are here tonight, there is no doubt that CDNY owes its impact to the first person that comes to mind for me when I think about young, inspiring, progressive leaders. And that's College Democrats President Destiny Hollenbeck. Destiny, regardless of challenging circumstances, I have no doubt that your work will pay off this November, that your work will make the world a better place. 30,000 calls is quite a feat, but we got there thanks to your leadership. And to motivate us even further, Destiny made us a promise. She may be a little upset that I'm mentioning this, but this is my way of holding you to it. If we reach 50K, Destiny will release a music video starring herself of a song that is very close to biography, and I'm sure that's something we all don't want to miss. In all seriousness, thank you, Destiny. Thank you, New York Young Democrats. Thank you, College Democrats. Thank you to all our representatives. Thank you, all our honorees for relentlessly working to preserve this democracy, this republic, to create a nation that prospers and works for everyone. And I know right now it looks like Donald Trump and Republicans are trying to get themselves elected out of office, but they're not. It's up to us to bring this home. The future of the Democratic Party is the here and now, and the here and now belongs to us. College Democrats, Young Democrats will lead the way. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention, and congratulations again to everyone. Have a great night.
Good evening. I'm Kyle Ishmael, Executive Director of the Manhattan Democratic Party and co-host of New York's top political podcast, House Party. Check it out if you have not yet. Tonight, I have the honor of introducing somebody I first met actually just over 3 years ago to the day. It was up in Rockland where Young Dems organized a full day of door knocking and hitting the streets in support of local Democrats. And he and I really clicked. I went on to beat him very badly in pool later that night. And we bonded over our life stories and our shared passion for doing big things for our communities. So it was no surprise when that same person took that same passion and energy that he showed that day in Rockland and turned it into a successful run for Congress 3 years later in order to fight for his community. Let it be known one day when I'm crisscrossing this great state running for governor that it was Mondaire and the Rockland Young Dems who welcomed me to the county first. I really appreciate that. So my fellow Young Democrats, without further delay, let me welcome my friend, Democratic nominee for New York's 17th Congressional District, Mondaire Jones.
Kyle, I cannot wait until you run for governor, brother. And
I'm taking that as an endorsement. Here we go.
I remember that day vividly, and so I'm struggling to remember you beating me at pool, but I'll let that go.
It happened. It happened. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the details. It happened.
It is such an honor to be here and to be for a really leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, whose district overlaps to some extent with my own, to Deputy Leader Mike Gianaris, who, yes, was one of the first elected officials in New York State to request that I run for office. He didn't know that it would be Congress a few years later, but here we are. And most of all, thanks to this incredible organization of people, young people in particular, who understand that they have tremendous agency in our politics, especially now in New York State, where we are ground zero for the progressive movement. I'm so excited about that. And I love talking about that with people from outside of New York State, because they see what's going on too, and they're curious. You know, I'm really excited to accept this Young Leader of the Year award, because I do still consider myself to be young, even though I've got all these college students and high school students who remind me on my campaign that I'm not nearly as young as I like to think of myself. And of course, I may not be as young as many of you on this call, but I'm no stranger to youth activism. And of course, I got my start in politics, for those of you who know my story, as a freshman in high school when I was growing up in a small working class community in Rockland County called the Village of Spring Valley. At the time, I found my community in a bitter dispute over a school budget, a public school budget, something that many other school districts simply take for granted. I knew that the value of my public education was at stake, and I wasn't going down without a fight. So at the age of 14 years old, I reached out to the Spring Valley NAACP chapter and offered to reactivate what was at the time a defunct youth council. I organized other young people, got out in the streets and registered voters, talked to people about what was at stake, and got out the vote. And at the time, against the odds, we passed a few budgets. And for the time being, we got the education that we deserved. And unfortunately, it is not the same quality public education that I received that public school students are in that district now receiving. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm running for Congress, because we need more equity in education. In college at Stanford, I became more deeply involved in political activism. And as an elected in student government, I fought the administration to increase faculty and graduate student diversity. I fought for a living wage for dining hall and maintenance workers. I fought to end the production of official Stanford apparel through sweatshop labor. And as a senior in college, when the Palo Alto police chief made comments that embraced racial profiling after a string of robberies, I organized my fellow students, and we worked with residents of the greater community to get her to resign. And we also got reforms within the Palo Alto Police Department. So I say all that to say, I know what you mean when you say that young gets it done. I saw it in my own primary election this past June, when despite being outspent nearly 4-1 by the son of a billionaire, despite running against a state senator and a state assembly member, a former senior Defense Department official, and so on and so forth, our campaign won on the strength of youth organizing. Many hundreds of people, most of them high school and college students, getting involved in politics for the very first time, made calls, sent text messages, created social media content, delivered yard signs, and otherwise organized their friends and their family members. I'll never forget visiting the polls in the town of Greenburgh on election day. The line was long, and of course it was hot out. But one voter told me what many people had told me in some variation prior to that time, which was that leaving the line was absolutely not an option for him. Because if he left without voting for me, his son would stop speaking to him. That's young people getting it done. At 33 years old, I'm gonna enter Congress as one of its youngest members. And I know firsthand the problems facing young people, facing us today. We stand to inherit a planet that will be devastated by climate catastrophe because people who have been in office for a really long time have failed to act with the kind of urgency that issue requires. We're crippled by student debt. We can't afford to move back to our home communities because housing prices are so high. And the American dream that was a given for our parents' generation feels hopelessly out of reach. Of course, it doesn't have to be this way. A better future is possible for us, but we won't get there without a fight. And there's no question that we're in the fight of our lives between now and November 3rd. We can have the most progressive Congress in American history ready to take office next term and commence what I call the reconstruction period that America so desperately needs. But the success of that project depends on placing the gavel in Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's hands and retaking the White House for President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. So there's no doubt in my mind that with young people leading this fight, we're going to get there. Let's leave it all on the field on November 3rd, and let's show them that young really does get it done. Thank you. And I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you, Mondaire. Ladies and gentlemen, Christina Kramer.
Yes, thank you so much, our esteemed future congressman. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Kramer, New York State Young Democrats Central Region Vice President, and I am excited to introduce our next honoree. He fights tooth and nail for upstate rural communities, for democratic values, candidates, and elected officials, and he fights just as hard for his friends. He is our Northern Region Vice President, our Warden of the North, and 2020's Rookie of the Year, Robert Drum.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you. I'm sorry you drew the short straw like I just told you, but thank you very much. Yeah, so I love being here. I love that the group very quickly became part of a family for me. I'm happy to be here and make sure upstate is represented. To my shock, though, it didn't really need to do that all that much because everybody tries to think that it's upstate versus downstate. And it was refreshing to come in here with a group of people where it wasn't, it was just trying to get young people to get it done and solve the problems we have to do. And make sure we do it together as a team with one voice, as strong as we can as possible. And I'm happy to be here and doing that, representing my district up here in the North, affectionately with as Warden of the North, which as a Game of Thrones fan, I love. And so just thank you. And I appreciate everything that you do. And thank you for having me. And I never thought at 30 years old, I would be a rookie of anything. I figured that was long gone, but here we are. And I am immensely honored. So thank you all very much.
And thank you too, Rob, for all that you do. Our next guest speaker needs no introduction. He is the State Democratic Party chairman and the first chairman to serve twice, the longest serving Nassau County Democratic chairman, a strong proponent for education, and he's overseeing the change of Nassau from red to blue. So let's give a warm welcome to our state party chairman, Jay Jacobs.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I appreciate it. It was good meeting with you the other day, you and Jovan, who've done a great job. And I want to thank all of the young Democrats for all the work that you do. It is so critical and so impactful in terms of our elections. I want to also congratulate all of the honorees tonight. It was great hearing from Mondaire Jones just a little while ago. I'm looking forward to working with him when he is in the Congress, and I'm sure that that's going to happen soon. And of course, our great Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who I was with this afternoon at an event out here in Nassau County. Andrea never fails to show up whenever she's needed, and she certainly was needed here and is always a great asset for all of us. And she's done a phenomenal job leading the state Senate. And my thanks also to Mike Janaris, the head of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, who's also done a fabulous job and is going to bring it home for us, not only keep the majority, but I believe enlarge the majority in our New York State Senate. So, you know, everybody that I've listened to, and I've been on the call since the beginning, has really stressed the most important points. And I'm not going to repeat what others have said. We all know how important this election is. We all know what is at stake. And I think each of you who are on this call, by virtue of the fact that you are so engaged, are so involved in the political process, I know we can count on you to do your part to bring out the vote and make sure we do have a successful November 3rd, because nothing should be taken for granted. Nothing's a sure thing. But what I'd like to do in the minute or two that I have left is perhaps put this more like looking at the forest through the trees. You know, I was listening to some of our young Democrats, and 40 years ago, even 30 years ago, I imagine I'd have been a young Democrat. And you are at a very unique point in your lives right now, each of you. I read a book not so long ago that you might be familiar with, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I remember the first habit, it was begin with the end in mind. And I think for each and every one of you, my message would be this. You have chosen to become Democrats for a reason. We believe in this party because I think each of us believes in taking care of people, putting people first, doing what's right for our community. You've got such a tremendous opportunity as you start out now in this political process. You come to the table with a fresh, clean slate. And I just urge each of you, as you begin your journey, some of you have already done so and are into it, but have a long road to go. You set as your goal something that you can strive for and be proud of when you achieve it. You know, so many times people enter politics because they want to better themselves. They want to get elected to something, and that's not a bad thing. You should do that. But, too often it's about trying to be somebody rather than do something. I think each of you on this call, and I believe this firmly, will be committed to doing something, do great things for our country, make our party proud, be engaged in this process because you want to do right. And if we do that, we make sure that we're not going to play it like the other team. We're not going to become them. We're going to be able to win the battles we're in and have the successes along the way with bumps, I'm sure. Doing what we believe in will be in the best interests of the people we serve. That's what the Democratic Party has always been about. And I know with you in the future, and Kyle, I look forward to you running for governor also. I hope to get the chance to vote for you. I know that we're going to have a great future ahead of us on top of a great night on November the 3rd. Thank you for inviting me to address you tonight.
Thank you so much, Jay. Hi, everyone. Yes, let's clap for him. How are you all doing? Where's Brooklyn? Where's Brooklyn? Anyone from Brooklyn in the house aside from me? I see my girl, Steffa. I might mispronounce her name, Anais, Felina. Where else from Brooklyn? I'm scrolling down, Casey. Yes, I'm seeing y'all. I'm seeing y'all. I'm seeing y'all. Hello, hello, hello from Brooklyn, Borum Hill to be exact, downtown Brooklyn. Yes, I'm feeling good. So this next speaker that we have is an amazing, amazing, amazing person. Many of you may know him or have heard of him. He's from Brooklyn. I'll give you a few hints. He's from Brooklyn. He is also a young Dem. He's around our age, 33 or so. Yeah. What else can I say about him? He is an organizer, an activist, an attorney. I mean, just out here in these streets doing the damn thing. So when I think of this person, I say to myself, yes, from the day that he had gotten elected, he immediately hit the ground running. He is the chair of the Senate Elections Committee, right? Let's cheer him on for that. Like, let's keep in mind that he is a fellow young Dem, just hit the ground running, was appointed by, Andrea Stewart-Cousins to do that. So that's pretty big, right? Again, he's from Brooklyn and he has honestly been doing the work. I know I joke, but he has honestly been doing the work from the day that he had gotten elected. He had a very contentious election back in 2018, defeating IDC member, who shall remain nameless. It's irrelevant. Jesse Shamilton. Defeating ICC member Jesse Shamilton. But he came out on top. This particular person came out on top and hit the ball running, came out swinging. So I'm very happy to, I was very happy to GOTV for him during his first run, because I believed in him. The day that I met him, I wanted to know more about his vision, because he kind of reminded me of Steve Urkel. And I was just saying to myself, who is this person running for office in Central Brooklyn, coming in, trying to, defeat see his face. His face just popped up.
Girl, would you introduce the man?
Let me just introduce him, because I can go on. But he is someone who is great. He is someone who I personally respect, a fellow Brooklynite, someone who's doing the work, someone who is an inspiration to Black people, to Black men, someone who, when I get ready to have children, I hope that my child looks up to him. Without further ado, State Senator from the 20th Senate District in Brooklyn, Zelnor Myrie.
Thank you. Thank you, Melinda, for that illustrious introduction. I am happy to be introduced as someone that reminds folks of Steve Urkel. There is no greater endorsement than to have that. But no, Melinda, thank you so much for that generous introduction. I want to say what's up to my leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins. It is so good to see you, my deputy leader, Senator Mike Gianaris. A lot of the things that we fought for in 2019 are coming to fruition right now. And one of those things is early voting. Many people didn't know when we were passing it how much of an impact that would have on our democracy right now. And it was the very first bill that this Senate tackled. And now we see how important that participation and that opportunity to vote early is going to be in our elections. I want to say congratulations to all of the honorees, all amazing people, all people that I know, all people that I work with. Thank you to the Young Dems for the work that you've done throughout this day of action, but everything you've done over the past couple of weeks, and for taking some time to honor these really amazing young leaders. What's up to Mandir? A lot of people don't know. Mandir and I used to work together in the same place. So I look forward now to work with him as a colleague in government. And I just want to say thank you for all of the work that you do. I spent the afternoon today at an event that I've sponsored along with some community leaders to stem gun violence in our community. And a lot of times the coverage that we see of Central Brooklyn, the coverage that we see of Black and Brown communities is a negative narrative. And certainly here in the city where shootings are up 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% over this pandemic, we've seen a lot of negative coverage. But what we've done over the past couple of weeks is host a basketball tournament that has rival gangs and rival blocks come to neutral ground and play against each other. And in that entire span, we have had 0 incidents of violence. We have had no shootings in the entire neighborhood. And that is something that hasn't been replicated across the city, but we came together as a community and said that this is something we could get done. Why am I sharing that? The election of the future president of the United States, Joe Biden, and the future vice president of Kamala Harris isn't just about climate change. And it isn't just about affordable housing. It isn't just about resources for education. They are a ticket that will help us stem the gun violence epidemic in our country. They have a plan to hold the gun industry accountable. They have a plan to invest resources in our community. They have a plan for common sense gun reform. This is something that literally is saving lives in our communities, and we cannot afford to not have them in the White House. And so I just want to say thank you for all of the work that you have done to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and to our down ticket folks. I don't have to tell anyone on this call what it has meant to have a true Democratic majority in the state Senate. Everything that we've done, you made possible. As Melinda just referenced, you were making the calls, you were knocking on the doors, you helped us change the face of New York, and by extension, because we the best, the rest of the country. And so I look forward to standing shoulder by shoulder with all of you as we have a new administration and we continue to fight for the resources that we deserve. It is going to be because the young people got it done. Young gets it done. We are in dire fiscal straits. We need a lot of resources. We are only going to get that from the federal government. We will only get that from a Biden-Harris administration. You have helped us to get there, and we need you over the next couple of days to help take us across the finish line. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the work that you're doing. And please, after we get them elected, take a couple of weeks off, enjoy the holidays, and then get ready to fight in January, because there's going to be a lot more work to get done. So thank you. Congratulations to all the honorees, and let's go get it done.
Thank you so much, Senator. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brian Garcia, and I am the Secretary of the New York State Young Democrats. And it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce Destiny Hallenbeck, who you heard a little bit about before. Destiny is our Advocate of the Year. She is just incredible on advocating for student issues, advocating for education, advocating for women's issues. You heard about how she had this crazy idea to do 30,000 calls, and somehow she's pulled it off. It is the honor of a lifetime to call you my friend, Destiny. I was looking through our texts and I realized it's almost our friend-iversary. I treasure every late night where I call you for advice. One last note before I hand the floor over to you. I'd also like to point out the fact that Destiny is one of the youngest elected officials in New York State serving on her local school board. And without any further ado, Miss Destiny Hallenbeck.
Oh, Brian, thank you for the introduction. You're almost gonna make me cry again. Thank you for New York State Young Dems for what we do. Being part of this organization has been one of the greatest things in my life. College Democrats of New York, I've been a part of it for about 1.5 years now, and it has truly changed my life in more ways than I could have thought. The family that we have and that I've tried to create in College Dems, it's something where you don't have to have the economic resources, you don't have to have the connections, you just have to be passionate about Democrats, and you actually have to care about people that you might not know. And in what we've been doing, we're approaching 40,000 calls since June, and that's amazing. Seeing all our 40 chapters across the state being activated in Democratic politics and just caring about other people, it's amazing. It's what keeps me going. We're making phone calls for not only Joe Biden, not only Kamala Harris, but we're also phone banking for state Senate candidates because we want that majority, we want that super majority, and also all the candidates down the ballot. So thank you for continuing to do that. And truly, I have had this honor of being president, and I never thought I would be in this position. I'm not someone who should be. I'm the first generation in college. My parents don't make that much money. I'm not someone who's supposed to be in politics, but really we are supposed to be in politics. And thank you to everyone who's helped me, who's been on my speed dial every time I've had an issue. Jovan, that name comes to mind. You're probably on the top of the list. And every CDNY alumni who's helped me. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Destiny, and congrats again for being such a great advocate. I now have, sorry everyone, I'm Muhammad Alam, Vice President of the Young Democrats of America, and I now have the honor of introducing a great friend of ours at NYSYD and across the state, Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli. Tom is the 54th Comptroller of the state of New York. Prior to that, he was the Assembly member for the 16th District out in Long Island. And as many of you know, he is the record holder for being the youngest elected official in New York history at the age of 18 to the Mineola Board of Election. He comes from a strong union household and is most likely or probably the most loved elected official in New York because of his famous breakfasts. And we've been to enough conventions to know that he has the best breakfast. And I wanted to also mention that in 2017, he was awarded the FDR Trailblazer Award for his incredible service to the state. And now we are awarding that to James. So without further ado, please help me welcome our great friend, Thomas DiNapoli.
Mohammed, thank you so much for that very generous introduction. I appreciate that. I always am grateful when folks are reminded that my first election was when I was 18. I was still a senior in high school to the Board of Education. but I'm especially grateful that you didn't mention what year that was. But I am so delighted to join with all of you. Jovan, thank you to you and your officers for inviting me to spend just a couple of minutes on this terrific call. You have such a lineup of elected officials and party leaders who are spending their time with you. It's a real tribute to what we all think about the New York State Young Democrats. I want to certainly say congratulations to your long list of honorees, the individuals and organizations so deserving of the honor. As was mentioned, I was pleased to be the FDR Trailblazer honoree years ago, and now my colleague in statewide office, Tish James, our outstanding Attorney General, is receiving that well-deserved recognition. And a quick shout out to Lauren Suma from my home county of Nassau County. I'm very familiar with the work that Lauren does here on Long Island. And really all of you who are being acknowledged, you really have gone above and beyond. This is an incredible year to be a Democrat, especially a young Democrat, because we see young people really waking up to the challenge of moving Trump out of the White House. Whatever the issue is, whether it's healthcare, the environment, women's issues, choice, social justice, racial justice, you go down the long list. These are issues that young people particularly care about. And I think that's why you've gotten a great response to the outreach that you've been making. And, you know, that year that I ran for the school board was my first vote. It was a presidential year. And what a great opportunity the presidential years are to bring new people into our ranks. You know, sometimes people talk about the young Democrats as being our future. You are our present. So the more you can do to enlist your peers to be involved with your organization, and you just look at all the candidates across the state, so many younger people now are on the ballot. So you've been doing a great job, your day of actions, all the calls you've been doing into the swing states. This election isn't over yet, and let's not be lulled by the polls. Let's remember what happened 4 years ago. There's still time for them to pull some tricks out of their sleeve, and Lord knows they're capable of it. So keep doing what you're doing, and as others have said, electing Biden-Harris obviously is so key to our future. Here in New York, we need the additional support from Washington that we're not getting. You know our reports, the budget shortfall, not just for the state, but for New York City, for all of our localities. We need a Democratic majority in the Senate. We need Chuck Schumer as majority leader. We need to continue to have a strong House of Representatives, and that's how we're going to get the support we need so that we don't have to have the kind of budget cuts or tax increases that would really set us back. So by supporting Biden-Harris the way you have been, we're going to elect more Democrats to the House of Representatives in New York. I'm convinced of it. My dear friend, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, she's going to get that veto-proof Senate because I've seen the candidates all across the state. They are an incredible crop of state Senate candidates. And of course, the state assembly, our great speaker, Carl Hastie, the House that I was privileged to serve in for 2 decades. They've got a strong majority, but hey, we could always use some more Assembly Democrats. There's no doubt about it. So let me just wrap up. You have others that you want to hear from. Just thank you to the New York State Young Democrats for everything you do year in and year out. But you know what, 2020, your efforts really and truly have never been more important than ever. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you. I hope many more of you will choose not only to be involved with the party, put yourself forward to be a candidate as well. We need new blood at every level, and you can help provide it. So thank you, New York State Young Democrats. Here's to victory on November 3rd, Biden-Harris, all the way through to the Assembly candidates. Let's go. Win this one for all of us.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. And I have the honor today to introduce one of my good friends and neighbors, Michael Grubiak. He is the Labor Leader of the Year. He's receiving that honor. Just a little introduction about Mike. I first met him a few years ago when I first started getting involved in politics at my then boss's dining room table, Senator Shelley Mayer. And since then, I've learned how to be a better advocate, better operative, and a better steward of bringing positive change to our community. Mike is a tireless fighter for public educators through his work in NYSYD, as well as the greater labor movement at large. Again, it's a great honor for me to introduce the Labor Leader of the Year, Michael Grubiak.
Great. Thank you so much, Vincent. So good evening, everyone. I would just like to thank all the dignitaries and honorees tonight for joining us. It's nice to take a break during this election and really reflect on why our work is so important, especially this year. Again, I'd especially like to thank Jovan Richards and Vincent Fields, who've been such an inspiration to me in our home county of Westchester. And, special thanks to my family and my wife, Kiara, for constantly dealing for the past decade with me telling them who to vote for, when to vote, from school board all the way up to president. So like any good organizer, I want to tell you a story tonight. About a month ago, my wife, Kiara, and I were sitting down at our kitchen table. We felt exhausted after months of uncertainty and anxiousness. And usually we spend this time checking in. But this night, we both asked ourselves a simple question. Are we proud to be an American in this moment? The answer should have been obvious, but we both paused. I want to tell you, we thought about all the opportunities this country has provided our families in only a few generations, but we didn't. We thought of George Floyd, Daniel Prude, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Kamal Flowers, Alton Sterling, Jonathan Price, Philando Castile, who, by the way, was a proud member of Teamsters Local 320, working as a cafeteria worker in the St. Paul schools, and countless others. How can any of us stand up and say we are proud to be an American in this moment? Since 1619, this continent has had a violent, systematic control over the many to benefit the few. To this day, the 13th Amendment of our Constitution allows for the enslavement of others if they commit a crime. But the beautiful thing about this country is the fact that so many things are not set in stone. Throughout our history, change makers have seen what America is in their present and dreamt of a better tomorrow for the future. When Daniel Prude was brutally murdered earlier this year, organizers in Rochester, including many of our NYSYD members, flipped the script and focused the conversation on concrete ways to prevent this from happening again. Through organizing, education, and agitation, they successfully pressured the Rochester City Council to address overfunding of the police department and fund an independent investigation. They are also advocating for the passage of Daniel's Law, which will have trained mental health professionals respond to mental health calls instead of law enforcement. The Rochester organizers make me proud to be an American. Much like the organizers in Rochester today, in 1913, labor leader Louis Tychus dreamt of a better world and changed labor in this country forever. Louis organized, educated, and agitated his fellow coal miners in Colorado to stand up to one of the richest men at the time, John D. Rockefeller. Their demands were clear and revolved around respect and dignity for their work. The unprecedented strike lasted almost a year, ending on April 20th, 1914, when the National Guard came in using machine guns and fired into the colony where strikers were living. Approximately 21 people died, miners, wives, children, and Louis Tychus himself. The Ludlow Massacre, as it would be called, was a watershed moment in the American labor movement. A congressional report preceding the incident was influential in promoting child labor laws and an 8-hour workday that we take for granted today. Louis Tychus makes me proud to be an American. He led the way for a young Al Shanker in 1960 to stand up once again in a strong American tradition of organizing, educating, and agitating. This time it was for educators in New York City. Educators were treated with little respect. Most notably, a teacher faced 2 years of mandatory unpaid maternity leave after they gave birth. Al Shanker led an unprecedented citywide strike in November of 1960 that, while did not gain major concessions, started a movement that led to the first ever citywide contract. This movement led to the creation of the New York State United Teachers in 1972 and our national union, the American Federation of Teachers, where Al served as president from 1974 to 1997, which now represents 1.7 million school employees. Today, NYSYD represents 675,000 members in New York, and our local leaders have been working nonstop to ensure all students and staff are safe during the COVID outbreak. Al Shanker makes me proud to be an American. Although many of the strongest American ideas are fundamentally flawed, we must continue to organize, educate, and agitate towards a better world. This country gives all of us the opportunity to rise up and demand our rights, dignity, and power within our political institutions. I thank you for this recognition, but more importantly, I want to thank all of you for being the change makers we need now in the state of New York and the country as a whole. Being with all of you tonight makes me proud to be an American. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mike. Congratulations. I really just want to, before we introduce our next special guest, really want to thank Mike and thank the great people at NYSYD for their overly generous donation. Speaking of their donation and some of the other great donations, I'm going to ask my partner in crime, Tyler, just to bring up the quick slides so we can just thank all of our great sponsors once again. So once again, we want to thank our great sponsors from NYSYD for their generous donation. We want to thank the Westchester County Democratic Committee. We want to thank Patrick Jenkins and Associates. And there's so many more. So take a quick look at all the great sponsors that we have on the screen and make sure you give them a huge round of applause because they really helped us to make this happen. So as that's going along and to keep the game going smooth, I'm going to introduce the next guest. So I am in love with the next guest. There's no which way about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, jumped on about a 1 hour and 15-minute call with the New York State Young Democrats back in March when the pandemic just started. And we were all just so confused and we did not know what to do. So we were looking towards electeds to really give us the real information because we know that Donald Trump will. So we called Chuck Schumer and he said, you know what? We're good. I got it. We're going to get on a call. I'm going to tell everyone what I know and we're going to fight back. He did just that. And ever since that one call in March, we have had an outstanding relationship with him and his office. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to announce the next Senate Majority Leader, because we're going to show Moscow Mitch the door. Ladies and gentlemen, the next Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, Jovan. And it's great to be with everybody. Thank you all for being here. I want to thank my dear friend, right back at you, Jovan. I love you. You've done a great job. And now you're the executive director of the Westchester County Democratic Committee. So you're constantly showing us all that young gets it done. And to all the great young Dems, all the way from Brookhaven to Buffalo and in between, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are what you're doing despite, I know the pandemic creates challenges, but the Young Democrats of New York has kept going and going and going and doing great things. And with 16 days left to the election, the young Dems are working so hard. Yesterday, many of you phone banked for Sarah Gideon, our great senator from Maine. She's going to send Susan Collins, who voted for Kavanaugh and votes with McConnell and voted for 179 of these awful judges. We're sending her back to Maine. And then I know today people teamed up with the young professionals for Biden for a New York Day of Action. So thank you. And I know what it's like to be a young Dem. My first political office was president of the Young Dems at my college. The Vietnam War was raging. People were being drafted. I lost a friend from high school, from Madison High School, who was shot and killed in that horrible war after being drafted. And I'd been cut from the basketball team at freshman year in college, and I didn't know what I'd do. And a guy knocks on my door and says, how would you like to join the Young Dems? We're going to work in the New Hampshire primary against Lyndon Johnson for a man named Eugene McCarthy, who was fighting the Vietnam War. Well, I joined up, and for 4 years, that's what I did. I protested, I picketed, I worked for candidates, all the things you're doing now. So that's how I got my start as a young Dem. So I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to not just have the title, but to be an activist, and that's what you are. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You give us strength, You give us hope. And yes, I want to be the majority leader. And with you on my side, we're going to make that happen. And if I get to be majority leader, we're going to tackle so many issues. We're going to deal with climate change in a big and bold way. We're going to deal with the wealth and income inequality in America. We're going to pass comprehensive immigration reform. We're going to deal with criminal justice and the discrimination in the police departments that affects people of color. We're going to do an infrastructure bill and wire every home, rural and inner city, for broadband where they don't have it. We got a lot to do. And your help in making that happen is so, so valuable, because we're not just going to win. We're going to change America. We're going to get America back on track, helping the people who need help and working hard. So I thank you for all of that. Now, I want to thank some of the honorees. Tish James, your great Attorney General. She won the Trailblazer Award. Tish, I won it in 2016, but it's gotten to be a better award since you've won it. I want to thank Mondaire Jones. What a great new congressman Mondaire is going to be. We've become friends. We're working on some issues. For instance, Elizabeth Warren and I have a bill to say that that Joe Biden, without legislation, can just sign something the day he becomes president. $50,000 of everybody's student loans is gone and gone. 75% of all people with student loans will not have them anymore. And guess who's helping us carry that in the House when he gets there? Mr. Mondaire Jones, as well as Jamal Bowman, and as well as Richie Torres, our three great new freshmen who are coming in. I want to thank Karina Raines from the 87th. She's the Young Elected of the Year. Where are you, Karina? Well, thank you. Labor leader, Mike Grubiak, I heard your great talk. I love the UFT. My kids went, I'm one of the few big shot public officials whose kids went to the public schools and got a good education from NYSUT teachers, as did I. I wouldn't be here without Mrs. Wagner of Social Studies from James Madison High School. I want to thank Stephanie Hausner from Clarkstown, our Rookie of the Year, Robert Drum, the Advocate of the Year, Destiny Hallenbach from Union College, the Leader of the Year, Lauren Suma, and the Caucus of the Year, Disability Issues, the Chapter of the Year, Richmond County. So all of you, congratulations. Now, please keep fighting. The stakes are so damn high. What are we going to do if this awful man, you know, I found a good adjective for Donald Trump. He's an obscene man. He's an obscene president. He is so awful. We got to get rid of him. And by the way, the good news, if we get rid of him, he's no longer a New York resident. He won't be amongst us. He can go to Florida. Good riddance. And we got to elect a Democratic Senate because, you know, Mitch McConnell, the Grim Reaper, will knock out any legislation that Joe Biden or the Democratic House members want. And so we will elect a Democratic Senate, and then we will get things done. We will fight so hard for civil rights and labor rights and environmental rights and women's rights and voting rights. And we are going to be inspired by Justice Ginsburg. She fought. She went to Madison High School, as did I. And by the way, so did Bernie Sanders. She graduated in 1950. She was the head cheerleader. They wouldn't let women be athletes in those days. Her nickname was Kiki. 10, 15 years later, Bernie Sanders graduated. He was on the track team that won the city championship. And Jovan knows I've told him this story. I went to Madison a few years later, and I was on the basketball team. You know what our motto was on the Madison basketball team? We weren't very good. We may be small, but we're slow. Anyway, Ruth Bader Ginsburg fought against a male-dominated legal profession. They discriminated against her. There's a great movie called On the Basis of Sex. She fought for women's rights at a time when it was highly unpopular in a male-dominated legal profession. In fact, when she got into Harvard Law School, there were only 9 women admitted out of 500 in the freshman class. And the dean of the Harvard Law School, named Erwin Griswold, who's supposed to be this big, fancy, famous guy, invited the 9 women to meet with the professors for dinner at his house, and he asked each one to stand up, and he asked them this question. This is true. I asked her children and grandchildren, who I met at their memorial service. He said, young lady, tell us why you should be here instead of taking the place of a deserving man. Can you believe that? And she couldn't get a job. No law firm would give her a job. She's glad that happened, because then she spent her life fighting. And she found this, no one thought she could do it. She found this unique way of interpreting the Constitution, the 14th Amendment. She found a judge out in Denver who would go along. And she was the first person to get the courts to declare sex discrimination on the basis of gender is illegal, unconstitutional. Amazing. So she fought against big odds. We have big odds with Donald Trump and the big corporate interests who are fighting us. Just like she prevailed, if we fight, we will. So young Dems, keep up the fight. Thank you for letting me speak. Jovan, keep up your good work. And on to victory in 2 weeks and 1 day. Thank you. Bye, Jovan. Okay.
Thank you so much, Senator. We're going to make you majority leader come November.
Ladies and gentlemen, to God's ears.
Justin Westbrook Lowry.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, Senator Schumer, for those amazing remarks. I'm so very happy to be here. Greetings from the Southeast Bronx. I'm very proud to introduce the next honoree. You know, I'm going to try to speak the best I can about her in only a minute, but there's so many great things to say about her. I'm going to try my best, and I hope I'm up to the task. But I'm so proud to introduce this year's Young Elected of the Year for the New York State Young Democrats, Assembly Member Karina Reyes. Where do I begin? The Assemblywoman, I'm so proud to be able to see all of the work that she does each and every single day, fighting for the people and the communities that make up the Bronx. Assemblymember Reyes is somebody who I've been very proud to work with closely as her Deputy Chief of Staff for the past 2 years. And the Assemblywoman, she has done so much in a short amount of time. When you look at passing legislation to protect healthcare whistleblowers for many of our different hospital workers and employees who were going back into the hospitals and fighting and taking care of people who were suffering from COVID. And we're talking about how hospitals were unprepared with PPE materials, with different materials to provide for patients. Assemblywoman Reyes passed the law, and she passed that law because she had seen many of her coworkers and her fellow union members with the New York State Nurses Association fighting to be able to tell their stories and to communicate about the needs of the patients and the needs of them when it comes to workplace safety. Hard on so many different people and so many different families. And Assemblywoman Reyes knows this firsthand because back in March, as the COVID pandemic started to unfold, the Assemblywoman went back into the hospital to take care of COVID patients infected with the COVID-19 virus. She spent so much time dedicated to taking care of her patients and providing them with adequate care. And, you know, she did all of that without skipping a beat. She did all of that while still attending sessions of the New York State Assembly. She did that while still doing food distribution events for her constituents who elected her to represent them and to take care of them in these times of need. She did that while still being a mother to 2 young boys who are her pride and joy. And that is her most important job, she tells to me. So I am so proud and so honored to introduce somebody who's not just my boss, but somebody who's my friend. She's my sister. And she is the 2020 New York State Young Democrats Young Elected of the Year, Miss Assemblywoman Karina Reyes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Justin. It's such a great honor to have Justin introduce me because I look up to him. Actually, I call him a political savant. He's one of the youngest members to ever serve on our community board. He's been so involved in politics, not just in the district, but throughout the Bronx and New York State. And he is very accomplished in his very young age. So I thank you, Justin. I'm so proud to call you my friend and to have you on my team. And I'm super honored that the Young Democrats chose me as their Young Elected of the Year. I've gotten a lot of awards the past couple of months for the work that I did as a nurse, but I tell everybody I've always been a nurse. And arguably, I think when young people get elected to office, it's very easy to overlook the work that we do or that we've done because one, we're young, or because I'm a woman, or there are a litany of reasons why somebody would overlook the qualifications of people. And we see that with the huge number of young people that have been elected to office that are so awe-inspiring, to be so young and be so accomplished. And I think that our state and our country is looking brighter because we really have young, transformative leadership, and that's what it takes. I remember the first presidential election that I voted in 2004. I'm aging myself. I'm dating myself here. And that time was so monumental for young people to come out to vote. I was a senior in high school during 9/11. And I remember having to walk home from my high school because the trains weren't running, and walk from Midtown all the way to the Bronx, and how that influenced how I voted because it was such a vivid lived experience for me. And I think COVID-19 is doing that now for young people, and it's important that we reach out to them and we activate them to vote because they are really eager to make their voices heard on a time like this. And it's important that we elect people who believe in science. It's so evident at a time like now that we needed leadership that will listen to the scientists, that listens, that is guided by evidence, and is guided by facts. And if that would have been the case, then perhaps we wouldn't have lost all the lives that we have in this country. And that's really unfortunate. And I think young people see that. And it's time that we really change the leadership of this country. And it's gonna be because of that young vote. We saw that in 2018 in my district with the election of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was carried to victory by newly registered young people who came out to vote for the very first time. And I think we need to galvanize those people. And it takes leadership like all of you who organize and continue to reach out to the young vote. So thank you again. I'm so honored and humbled to be your honoree. And I am so proud of the work that young people are doing. And it is our responsibility to make sure that we create a future for all young people and we create paths for them to be the future leaders. And for me, that means opening the door for somebody like Justin in the future to take the helm and be the leadership of our community. So thank you all, and let's go out to vote.
This is Tony Coelho. I was a member of Congress, and when I was in Congress, I was the author of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I started my career as a young Democrat, as a staffer in the Congress, so I applaud all of you for your work in New York and what young Democrats do throughout the United States. When I was involved with the disability movement, I decided that it was important that we get young people aggressively involved in the disability community and started the Disability Council for the DNC. And as a result, we developed the youth committee of the Disability Council. And Seaman Campbell is the one that we had chair it. And he's done a tremendous job of reaching out to the rest of the country and making sure that we have youth-oriented disability councils all over the country. It's important for us to get the disability community of all ages involved in this process and make sure that we defeat Donald Trump in his comments in regards to people with disability, making fun of us, doing everything he can to take away programs and so forth. So it's critical that we get the involvement of all of you young people. I applaud you for what you're doing. I applaud you for your involvement in politics. I'm 78. I started off in Young Dems when I was in my 20s, so I've been involved with you folks for a long time. But I'm here tonight to congratulate Simmons for his efforts and for the Caucus of the Year for disability. So Dimon, thank you very much for your work. Love you and appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Hold on, it's hard to also produce this while also giving speeches. Thank you so much, Congressman, for that warm introduction, and congratulations to the other recipients. Tony, if I may also just thank you so much for all your hard work a generation ago, which has continued to this day. If it wasn't for you, the American Disabilities Act would not be law, and the Disability Issues Caucus would not be a thing. And to all of you at home, I just have 6 words for you. Do not or don't count out the disability vote. Right now, there's an occupant in the White House that is actively rolling back protections for persons with disabilities while thousands of us are dying from this pandemic. And the truth is, that scares the Republicans because they know that we're pissed, we're going to mobilize, and most of all, we're going to vote. Here in New York, back in January, when Democrats were fighting to expand voting rights, one state senator actually said that persons with intellectual disabilities lacked the ability to understand the democratic process. And when NYSYD called him out, what did he say? He said that young Democrats misunderstood him. Sorry, Senator Borrello. No, we didn't misunderstand anything. You're just embarrassed that you got caught. It's situations like those that prove that people with disabilities still have a long way to go in the fight for full equality in the democratic process. Just last year in Wisconsin, there's a paraplegic state representative named Jimmy Anderson, and he wasn't allowed to virtually attend committee meetings because their speaker, Robin Vos, just wanted a cheap political win. Luckily, Vos finally caved when he started getting bad press, but don't think that any of us ever forgot what he did. Thankfully, this year, people with disabilities are going to be the force that also makes sure that Vos's Democratic opponent, Joel Jacobson, gets elected. Meanwhile, back here in New York, the disabled vote is going to be the ones that drive allies like James Skoufis, Pete Harcum, Tracy Michano, and most importantly, we're going to be the ones who, in 16 days, elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And how do I know this? Because the one thing that Congressman Coelho has been pushing for me to know for as long as I've known him, 20% of the electorate is going to be persons with disabilities this year. And you better believe that here in New York, the New York State Young Dems Disability Issues Caucus is going to be the one leading that charge. That work, of course, is a team effort. I would not be here accepting this award on behalf of the Disability Issues Caucus if it wasn't for my amazing caucus leadership team, Jimmy Kane, Kenny Burr, Lou Panicoli, and Rory Monshine. I just want to thank them all for all the work that they do. You know, they're the brains behind the operation. And I want to thank the New York State Young Democrats for recognizing us. And thank you all.
And thank you, Seamus. Congratulations, my friend. Well earned, well deserved. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and privilege of introducing our other Young Leader of the Year, Lauren Zuma. Lauren Zuma is a true civic-minded individual who has embraced her various positions in government and who is consistently working on constituent issues. Lauren began her political career as an aide to State Senator Craig Johnson. In her current role as supervisor's resident advocate in the town of Hempstead, Lauren works to assist residents with issues involving building, highway, and code enforcement in those respective departments. Lauren is currently the president of the Nassau County Young Democrats. Shout out to Nassau. And is currently the longest serving chapter president in our organization's history. Wow, what a feat. Lauren is currently the co-lead for the 2020 New York for Biden Harris Young Professionals Committee, who we partnered with today. So a lot of you are coming here because of our partnership with that group, partially thanks to Lauren. So the committee who we partnered with today is working on just getting young professionals and millennials working to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris this November. A Dean's List scholar at Hofstra University, Lauren holds her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Broadcast Journalism and a Master's of Arts degree in Speech Communication. Lauren was the president of the Hofstra University chapter of Radio Television News Directors Association and Foundation, and is a member of the Broadcast Education Association and the New York Women's Agenda. My friends, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the longest serving New York State Young Democrats chapter president, Lauren Suma.
Thank you so much for that thoughtful introduction, Jovan, and thank you and the entire New York State Young Democrats organization for honoring me as the Young Leader of the Year. It has been my great honor and privilege to serve as the Nassau County Young Democrats president and a member of the New York State Young Democrats for these past 10 years. In that time, I have made many great friends and have been so happy to be involved. I want to give a special thank you to Chairman Jay Jacobs for your support, wisdom, and guidance. I also want to thank my executive board, Dan Small, Carl Potak, Alicia Munion, Crystal Berger, Richard Durazi, and Eric Simonson for your collaboration and camaraderie over the years. I also want to give a big thank you to our neighbor in Suffolk County, Joe Sarno, the president of the Huntington Young Democrats, for working so closely with our group and partnering with us on events. As president, it has always been a priority to me that our chapter provides opportunities for young people to be engaged in the political process and can participate in professional development experiences, and for our members to attend events and fundraisers without worrying about the cost. Our organization has achieved many great accomplishments under my leadership. We have overseen and directed signature campaigns during the petitioning process to ensure that our candidates are eligible and included on the ballot. We have organized meet and greets, phone banks, and canvasses for presidential, state, and local candidates, as well as hosted fundraising events. All of these measures have contributed greatly in engaging the young Democrats in Nassau County. We also make it a priority to give back to our communities by volunteering at the Ronald McDonald House of Long Island, by preparing meals for families and their sick children, as well as with Habitat for Humanity of Nassau County to help build homes for families in need. All of these experiences have allowed our organization to bring people together to support good causes, develop relationships, and support our communities. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic earlier this year, we decided to step up and support our doctors and nurses at hospitals on Long Island. We raised thousands of dollars to purchase meals from local businesses to send to hospitals to show our appreciation for their work. I am so personally proud of this effort to support these healthcare heroes. They literally are heroes. With November 3rd right around the corner, I am so proud that our group has been fully focused on all efforts to help ensure that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are elected. Our members have worked closely with the young leaders of the New York State for Biden-Harris team to mobilize, organize, and lead phone banks, networking events, and fundraising opportunities for the campaign. As one of the co-chairs for the New York Biden for Harris Young Professionals, I am privileged to be working shoulder to shoulder with my fellow co-chairs, Mike Corbett, Lizzie Lordy, Noah Rohde, Greg Rivera, and Mohammed Alam. I am so grateful for their incredible friendship and partnership in this movement. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Nye Whitaker, the New York State for Biden-Harris Senior Advisor, and Zach Layton, the New York State Deputy Director. They both motivate us and push us to continue to be better leaders. In closing, I thank you again for recognizing my efforts with this honor tonight. I look forward to the hard work ahead in these final weeks. While I won't be a young Democrat for much longer, I remain dedicated to the mission of ensuring Democrats are elected up and down the ballot in Nassau County, New York State, and across the country. I will forever cherish the great work, memories, and relationships that being the president of the Nassau County Young Democrats has brought me, and can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you all so much for being here, and a special shout out to my family who is joining us tonight from the great state of Pennsylvania, a state that we are working hard in to ensure victory of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So I'm so honored and privileged to be an honoree tonight with all these great colleagues tonight. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Assembly Member Michael Cusick.
Hi, Young Democrats. It's great to join you tonight. I am Mike Cusick, State Assemblyman from Staten Island, representing the 63rd Assembly District, Richmond County. And my Young Dem credentials go back a ways, but I am also a former state president of the Young Democrats and a former president of the Richmond County Young Democrats. So I am honored to be here and to join you here tonight. And I want to thank all Young Democrats throughout the state for all your hard work. This is a very crucial year for us, for this state, for this country. And I know that all of you are working very hard. And I really, truly appreciate your work. And I join with you as we go on to victory on November 3rd. So thank you for your hard work, New York State Young Democrats. I had the great honor tonight. The State Young Democrats asked me to serve tonight in a capacity of introducing and recognizing the Chapter of the Year award for the New York State Young Democrats. And I am honored as the Richmond County chairman and as the former president of the Young Dems of Richmond County to announce and introduce the Richmond County Young Democrats as the Chapter of the Year for the New York State Young Democrats. I want to congratulate KC and all the officers of the Staten Island Young Democrats. I know firsthand, I see firsthand the hard work that they put in, how they've grown our club, how they're an integral part of our county committee, all members of the county committee. They're not just a Young Democratic club, they are integral members of our party on Staten Island. And for that, they truly deserve this award and they truly deserve all of the honors that they may receive going forward. And I know they're putting in the hard work as all of you are. So congratulations, Young Democrats of Richmond County. You make us all proud.
Ladies and gentlemen, accepting the award for this Richmond County Young Democrats, their president, Casey Higgins.
Thank you so much, Jovan and Assemblymember Cusick. It's really something to see a Young Democrats past president rise up to become an assembly member and a chair of our local party. Thank you for all of your support over the years, and I really look forward to expanding our Democratic majority on Staten Island. Congratulations to all the honorees. It is a serious honor for our chapter to be awarded next to all of these amazing people. Thank you to Jovan and Tyler and Stephanie and Brian, Seamus, and everyone at New York State Young Democrats for all your support of our chapter. And of course, I have to thank my mom who came onto this Zoom call to celebrate us, and she's always been a staunch advocate of the Staten Island Young Democrats. So, you know, in my time with the Staten Island Young Dems, I've seen the power of young people bring to our politics. Our organization is constantly fundraising and knocking doors and making calls and training new political activists and getting people involved. But then on top of that, our young people are everywhere. Since I've started, I've seen our members get jobs on every one of our electeds campaigns or in their offices. And we've seen them organize with so many different organizations around getting out the count on Staten Island with the census. And, you know, we even have, you know, a couple of UFT members in our ranks, you know, doing the labor organizing within our union, myself and Dana. And, you know, out in Staten Island, we really know what it means to be Democrats, because we are the only swing borough in New York City. I will never call us a red district, but we are the only swing borough. So we had a lot of pressure on us to be successful each election season. All eyes are on us. And yet no matter the outcome, somehow the other boroughs are making memes about us still. And I don't really understand why. But, you know, we saw in 2018 what happens when the Democratic Party comes together. Not only did Max Rose win New York 11, but we elected Matt Tatone to the surrogate court judge on Staten Island, and Max Rose won Staten Island. Not even, forget the part of Brooklyn that he's in, Max Rose won Staten Island. So we need to remember that we can do it as an island, and we can do it as a Democratic Party on Staten Island. And I'm so proud of the work that the Young Democrats have done. We've done since 2018, all through 2020. We're doing the work and we're getting it done right now. And now I would never be successful as a president without the support of our amazing executive board. My vice president, Dana Koenigsberg, who is my right-hand person. She does everything with me. Our campaign guru, Nidhi Khanna, our amazing policy expert, Vinuri, our community leader, Lou, our graphics queen, Kayla, who has been just pumping out awesome voting graphics and stuff lately. And of course, our past president, Tommy Blancero, who has been a constant source of support for me. And just all the young Dems are really getting it done. So we aren't just the future of our party. We know we're the present. And we really have an important get out the vote season, not just across the country, but right in our backyard in New York. So let's make sure that we're not only getting out the vote across the whole country, but we're getting out the vote up and down the ticket for Democrats all across New York State. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Rockland County Young Dem President, Adal Regis.
Thank you, Javon, and greetings, everyone. Tonight, I have the distinct honor and privilege of introducing the New York State Young Dem 2020 Alum of the Year, my sister from another mother, Miss Stephanie Hausner. Before I go on to list some of Stephanie's achievements, I want to briefly and publicly acknowledge that years ago, it was Steph who encouraged me to join the local Democratic committee, which in turn led me to getting involved with the Rockland County Democratic Party. So needless to say, it's all coming full circle this evening. Now, many of us know Steph for being a strong advocate for Jewish issues wherever she goes. One of the ways in which she fulfills her passion for this cause is through her current position as interim director of the Israel Action Network, which is a strategic initiative created to educate and mobilize the North American Jewish community to change the conversation about Israel and to achieve peace and security for two states and for two people. Additionally, anyone who's ever attended a YDA convention at some point has seen Stephanie spending hours at the bylaws committee meetings to ensure the inclusion of the Jewish voice in the decision-making process. But very often, Stephanie has also used her platform to advocate for human rights issues as a staunch ally to the Black community through her participation in the Black Lives Matter movement. As a bridge builder, she has continually addressed issues that affect people of color in this country and has worked with various organizations to help identify solutions for the betterment of the Black community. For instance, Stephanie sits on the board of SOAR Mentorship Program, an organization which she helps secure resources to empower young people, young men and women of color to excel in life through mentoring and community support. But Stephanie is also a pioneer with an extensive resume to prove it. Back in 2009, she was the youngest female elected in office in New York. At the age of 25, she joined the Clarkstown Town Board and served as the councilwoman for 2 terms. Additionally, as the YDA female representative to the DNC, it was Stephanie who helped pave the way for the youth in the organization by advocating for the inclusion of young people as delegates to the DNC during the national conventions. Ladies and gentlemen, and my non-binary friends, let's give a warm welcome to a proud Democrat who never backs down from a good fight, the remarkable Stephanie Hausner, our 2020 Alumni of the Year.
Well, thank you, Adal, who I also refer to as my other brother. I have a lot of them, but Adal is included in that. It's nice to see so many friends on this call and to be honored alongside such incredible leaders. It's great to see our state party chair, Jay Jacobs, who I've known for a very long time, and Suzanne Berger, the new Westchester County Democratic chair, we've also known for a long time. And my local Rockland Young Democrats, Megan, Adal, David, and Dustin, of course, and my family and friends. In 2004, when I attended my first Young Democrats local program in Baltimore, where I was going to college, I had no idea that this organization would have such a profound impact on my life. In 2005, I started getting more involved nationally through the Women's Caucus and helped start the National Jewish Caucus. And it was also that year that I attended my first national Young Democrats meeting in Arizona, where I met Michael Gilberg, a trajectory that I think many people on this call would know kind of set both of our Young Democrats careers in motion. And he encouraged me to get involved in the New York Young Democrats after I graduated college. And so when I finished college, I immediately joined the New York Young Dems board as downstate vice president. We reinvigorated the Rockland chapter, built new chapters across the state, and built really strong partnerships with the state party, beginning in the 2008 election season. We brought karaoke to state party conventions, some of you might remember, and worked hard to gain the respect and support of party chairs across the state. In New York, I had the opportunity to help several friends during their presidency, Matt Silverstein and Mike Corbett. And on the national level, I spent 5 years as a YDA national officer, 3 representing the Young Democrats on the Democratic National Committee, a term as credentials chair, vice chair of the DNC Youth Council, and I've served, I think, in every single Young Democrats of America convention role. As I look back on all of this time in the Young Democrats, the thing I'm most proud about is that in 2012, we pushed the DNC to adopt affirmative action goals for the first time, forcing state delegations to have representation under 36 and to make that a part of that affirmative action plan. Under Charlie King's leadership, I worked with the state party to help draft their affirmative action goals to ensure representation based on the historic youth vote numbers in 2008 when President Barack Obama was elected. I was excited to see and help ensure dozens of Young Democrats serving as delegates and alternates in 2012. I think that might be the first time I met Lauren, and I have like a very vivid picture of us at that event, and I love that we're twinning tonight. And these youth goals are now live on and are part of regular goals of our state parties. But perhaps the biggest thing Young Democrats has done for me is provide amazing friends from all over the country. There are a few on the call tonight. And when I first ran for councilwoman in Clarkstown, Young Dems from across the country donated to my campaign, came to knock on doors, and even ran my campaign. And I was the only Democrat on our town council for a few years. It was the Rockland Young Democrats and Megan's on this call and Adal and Jesse who literally came every meeting to make sure that I had moral support and then took me out for drinks and nachos after. And during this quarantine time, it's been amazing reconnecting with so many Young Democrats friends from across the country and from the past. It's been a great 2020 support system. And when we first started in Young Dems, or when I first started, we were just seeing increases in youth voting. And now over the last very long time, 14 years or so, we've seen that we called it a youth voter revolution. Now it's normal, right? Young people vote. We knew older generations were writing us off. They said we don't vote. We used peer-to-peer techniques. We would register people in bars. Still, I think maybe we're doing that. And we know that the next few weeks before the general election are going to be crazy, and we have no idea what's in store. But we do know that peer-to-peer and direct action works. I know today we made calls into Pennsylvania, but it's also about making sure that everyone you know has a plan to vote, and not just the people on this call. Like, we all know we're going to vote, but like calling your high school friends, your college friends, your church friends, your synagogue friends, making sure that they have a plan to vote and that they know that their early vote location may not be the same as their regular vote location, as we heard a little bit before. It's been amazing over the last few weeks how many people have reached out to me about voting, people that I haven't heard from about voting in the past, which is an exciting time. But we need to continue this momentum over the next few weeks. And we need Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in office. We need their leadership. We need their empathy. We need their patriotism. We have an opportunity to elect Young Democrats up and down the ballot. I'm so excited to be honored with my future Congressman, Mondaire Jones. And I'm also excited that my future state senator and very close friend, Elijah Reichlin Melnick, is also on the call. And I just want to, before closing, thank all the first responders, medical professionals, government officials, supermarket workers, teachers, mailmen, everyone who's really kept our country going, kept all of us going over the last several months during the COVID crisis. Thank you, New York State Young Dems.
Congratulations again to the OG Steph. I like to go by the other Steph now, or Brooklyn Steph. I don't know why I went with other, but it's obviously Steph again. And so our Trailblazer of the Year award recipient couldn't actually make it tonight, though I don't work for her anymore, to know me is to know how much I adore our Attorney General, Tish James. She's the first woman elected to be New York State AG and the first woman of color elected statewide here in New York. And she's a brilliant woman who loves to hire young Dems. So special shout out to Kyle O'Leary, who is a member of our chapter of the year, the Rockland County Dems, and who makes her look really good on Twitter and in photos, brilliant photographer. And though Tish couldn't make it, we wanted to give her this award because she's truly blazing a trail, as cheesy as that is, not just for New Yorkers, but for all Americans and everyone who depends on the outcome of this election. I'm pretty positive that she is the only woman that Trump is afraid of. And honestly, she's gonna get his ass after she's done abolishing the NRA. So though she's not here, we didn't want to let this moment pass without giving Tish props. And I'm not sure if y'all know this, but Tish was a fan of Vice President Biden from day one. She was a little disappointed when I left to go work for Bernie. She said, "I thought you were going to hold out for Biden." But I'm super glad to welcome our next speaker. She is one of the co-chairs for the New York for Biden-Harris Students and Young Professionals Group, and a future Young Dems member, right, Lizzie? Please help me welcoming Lizzie Lurdy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steph. And just thank you to all Young Democrats for partnering up with us on this day of action. This is a great way to close it off. And thank you to all those who attended throughout the day to Phone Bank. As Steph mentioned, I'm a co-chair for New York for Biden-Harris Students and Professionals. And I am basically dedicating my life for these next few weeks to just making sure I can do everything I can to make sure that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are elected on November 3rd. So I'm just here to ask you guys to do more. I know you're all doing so much stuff. You're all doing great work, but there's just over 2 weeks left. So Noah's going to drop our website in the chat. We have phone banks happening every single day of the week. On weekends, we have all day long phone banks happening. Please sign up. If you're already phone banking once a week, do it twice a week. If you're doing it twice a week, do it 3 times a week. We only have just over 2 weeks to get the work done. So I'm just here to ask you to do more and just keep working hard and keep doing everything you're doing. And thank you again to our great partnership with the Young Democrats today. And I hope we can continue working together moving forward. And yes, like Steph said, I will be a future Young Democrat. And I just want to kick it to Noah real quick, just to plug in a few special events we have coming up that we hope you guys can be a part of. So take it away, Noah.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, and thank you so much, the New York State Young Dems. Truly to Javon and Steph and Tyler and Seamus, we could not have done this without you. You guys helped us pull this through. And to all of our wonderful, wonderful speakers, thank you all so much. You were all so lovely and so wonderful. And I know that I feel excited and motivated to kick these last 15 days out of the park. So thank you all so much. The phone banks that I put in the chat, we have a marathon all-day phone bank, our New York Strong. We have our Students and Young Professionals on Tuesday, and of course our website if you're interested in anything else. But again, thank you so much to all the Young Dems, from a future Young Dem to all of you out there. Thank you so much, and and thank you to Mike Corbett for the official Young Dem for Life. So thank you all so much, and I thank you all so much for coming out.
All right, folks. So that looks like that's going to be the program. But before we close it out, I want to just do a quick special shout out to the team that made it happen once more. Hey, Seamus, you got the wrong person spotlighted for right now. I have to say good things about her. So I just want to shout out 3 members of the team that have really helped put this all together before one of those members closes us out today. I also want to shout out my mom, who is up way past her bedtime. I don't know what she's still doing up. Hi, Mom. Love you.
Wait, which one is your mom? We want to know.
I
am. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Oh, she is beautiful. Hi. Yes.
Don't get Melinda started, Mom. She'll be here. Hi, Mommy. Nice to see you. But I want to shout out three of the board members who have literally done everything they could to put this together. I came up with this idea on the fly, and I was like, we should do something. It'd be cool. And they were like, no. But I was like, yes. And for the first time ever, I got to utilize my presidential power and pass something through our board. It was very hard. I'm just kidding. It was very easy. They knew what we needed to do. Tyler White, Stephanie Campagna-Wheaton, and Seamus Campbell. I cannot thank you enough for getting us through this hump. Mike Corbett, Lizzie, Greg, Noah, Nye, Lauren, again. Thank you as well for partnering with us and making this special day possible. We're so glad we were able to help you guys out on the phone banks, and we're thrilled that we were able to make so many calls throughout the day. To all the honorees, you guys are exceptional, and you did not need an introduction because your work speaks for itself. But I really want to go back and just highlight once again, Tyler, who's my EVP and literally the rock and soul of this organization. And behind every good rock is another rock. So shout out to Randall, who is literally dancing for his wife, which I appreciate. Again, shout out to Stephanie Campagna-Wheaton, who after leaving the Bernie campaign, went right to work for Young Dems. She left us. She was like, I'm going to work for Bernie. And I said, no, don't do that. Don't leave me. And when she came back, I said, so you're ready to come back to work? And she said, no. And then I was like, but it's for me. And she said, fine. And then I handed her this. So she's already really mad at me, but she ran with it. She worked at it. She made the schedule. She called the folks. She was really the rock and the soul. You know, she's the spine of this organization. She keeps us literally together. If Tyler's the heartbeat, Stephanie is the spine. And then here comes the brains. Seamus Campbell, who has some of the most massive institutional knowledge of this organization. I don't think of him as a caucus chair. I honestly think of him as the historian of this organization, because the man remembers everything and he won't let me forget a single word that I've ever said to him. He is literally a court stenographer, a walking court stenographer. It's insanely disturbing, but also very helpful when you're trying to prove yourself right. So Steph, Tyler, and Seamus, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys literally keep us moving, and I'm just a face that is pretty on Zoom calls and behind a microphone. You guys do the real work. I'm proud of y'all. Love y'all. All right, Tyler, shut me up and close this out.
I mean, what am I even supposed to say after that? Like, you took my job. But I would be remiss to not mention the fact that Javon, although he says he's just a pretty face, that's not all he does by any means, shape, or form. He's really what drives us to keep doing all the things that we've been doing and coming up with ideas like, for example, this event today, and raising us a significant amount of money. I think we raised, $5,000 in 7 days because of Javon. So like, can we give a round of applause to Javon for that alone? And not to mention how much he's just turned around this organization since he's taken over. What was it, August? You took over in August. We officially got elected in September, at the end of September. This is our first event. Please come back for our next event, which is also the brainchild of Javon, on November 1st. We're going to have a pre-election day event, so please keep an eye out on our social media, feeds for what's coming up next. If you are not already in contact with your local Democratic, or rather your local Young Dems chapter, please let us know. We'd be happy to welcome you into the fan. We are definitely doing a bit of a reorganization, but we are always welcoming to anyone who's coming in that's new. So feel free to reach out to myself, Javon, Steph, Seamus. Yes, all of you. I'm shouting all y'all out because I'm not going to be the only one. And we'd be happy to just to connect you with whoever you'd need. Once again, thank you very much to the Young Professionals for Biden-Harris team for helping us out. This is not going to be our only event that we're going to be doing in terms of phone banking and such and going into the future. So please keep an eye out for our events calendar. Seamus, if you can drop that in the chat as well. If you guys do have an event that you would like to add that either your county chapter is doing or that your campaign you're working for is doing or any organization that you feel really charged about is doing, please add it to our events calendar so this way we can get more Young Dems involved on it. It's definitely I think we had an event every day for this month, right? If I'm not mistaken, Seamus, you should know.
At one point we did actually, so we're just about to get through that. So everyone, if you have an event, I put the link in the chat. Go ahead.
But yes, no, please add the event and welcome to the fam. So thank you so much for everyone who made calls this morning. I hope you did enjoy this awards ceremony and GOTV rally. And do not forget that this Saturday is going to be the first day of early voting in New York State. Okay, so if you guys do not know yet where you can go to vote, please go to iwillvote.com/NY and you should be able to find out what your local polling place is, where your local place that you can go to drop your early voting in. If you would like to, obviously with social distancing in place, because we do believe in science and masks are going to save lives. So please let people know, anyone that's around you, to go out and vote starting early, because the earlier we get the votes in, the earlier we can get this asshat out, right? So thank you very much for everybody for coming out and making calls and joining us tonight. And thank you so much to all the awardees for all of your hard work. Big round of applause for everybody. And I think that's about it. So I'm gonna end it.
All right, no naps, stay woke, be good, guys.
15 days, y'all. We're almost done.
Yeah, here we go. In 3,
Till 2021.
1. Close it out, Seamus. That was a really bad try to get.